ऑलराइट, वेलकम
Okay.
आप सभी का। सबसे पहले तो गुड मॉर्निंग, और जो हमारे गेस्ट हमारे साथ हैं सर प्रणाम। आपको अभी हम लोग सुन रहे थे। सबसे पहले हम लोग अपने बारे में बताना चाहेंगे। सुपर हिट्स 93.5 रेड एफएम से पटना के दो कड़क छोरे अनूप और सरस, हम दोनों हैं। ये अनूप, मैं सरस।
हमने सोच के रखा था जैसे टाइमर खत्म होगा ना,
हाँ।
जैसे 5 4 3 2 1 वैसे
Happy New
हैप्पी न्यू
Year!
ईयर।
So,
एंड इट्स अ गुड थिंग कि आज की तारीख बहुत ही लाइक नोटेबल है। इट्स 12/12 एंड
हाँ।
2020। आज के इस दिन में आज से कुछ साल पहले काफी सारी चीज हुई थी। plenty of people got married on this particular date because ये तारीख इतनी स्पेशल है। एंड आज का दिन बाय द वे बहुत ही स्पेशल है बिकॉज एक बहुत ही स्पेशल सा इवेंट, एंड ये हमारे लिए फर्स्ट टाइम हमारी पूरी लाइफ में हम इस चीज को एक्सपीरियंस कर रहे हैं
एकदम।
एंड इस चीज का एक हिस्सा बने। इट्स प्रीटी अमेजिंग फीलिंग फॉर अस एज वेल। एंड कहाँ है हम?
सबसे पहले बहुत शॉर्ट में हम लोग इस चीज पे बात करना चाहेंगे। वो ये कि ये सेलेस्टा 2020 है।
Absolutely.
और इस बार बहुत सारे लोगों को ऐसा लग रहा होगा कि शायद ये जो इवेंट है ये ना हो सके या पोस्टपोन हो जाए या अगले साल हो, क्योंकि कोविड-19 के चलते जिस तरह से पूरी दुनिया बदली है, उसके चलते ऐसा लग रहा था कि शायद प्रॉब्लम हो। लेकिन ये मेरे ख्याल से एक हौसला है, हम लोग इतना ज्यादा हौसला है हम लोगों के अंदर कि हम लोगों ने ये कर दिखाया। वो अलग बात है कि ये वर्चुअल है। एक एक फील होती है जब हम लोग किसी लाइव इवेंट में जाते हैं। अगर हम सेलेस्टा में ही आते, एक चीज होती है ना कि अभी जो लोग हमें देख रहे हैं, जितने आप लोग हैं जिनको हमने गुड मॉर्निंग बोला है, आप लोगों का रिस्पॉन्स ना, मतलब वो सुनाई नहीं दे रहा है, वो आ नहीं रहा है। तो ये एक छोटी सी कमी होती है। बट ये कह सकते हैं कि 2020 है भाई साहब, किसी भी कीमत पे हम रुक नहीं रहे हैं। ये सबसे बेहतर पार्ट है जिंदगी का।
वेलकम करना चाहेंगे आपका साइबर वर्स की दुनिया में आईआईटी पटना का टेक्नो फेस्ट, जो बहुत ही अमेजिंग होने वाला है आज, एंड अभी से शुरू हुई है एंड काफी दिनों तक चलेगी।
जी।
बहुत सारे स्पेशल लेक्चर्स हैं आपके लिए बाय द वे, दैट इज
ये
फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट।
20 तारीख तक चलने वाला है। एक से बढ़कर एक एक्सपर्ट, जिन्हें महारथी कहते हैं अपनी अपनी फील्ड के,
बिल्कुल।
वो यहाँ पर होने वाले हैं। एक हिसाब से कहा जा सकता है कि जो स्टूडेंट्स हैं उनको बहुत कुछ मिलने वाला है, और वो भी फ्री में मिलने वाला है, और जो उनकी पूरी जिंदगी उनके काम आएगा।
काफी सारी
हम लोग यहाँ से शुरू करते हैं। सबसे पहले मुझे लगता है कि हम थोड़ा सा एक बार बात कर लें कि जो इवेंट्स होने वाले हैं अभी से लेके 20 तारीख तक, उनके बारे में। उसके बाद हम कुछ अपनी बातें करेंगे, और फिर हम आप लोगों को, मतलब वही है कि हम इजाजत चाहेंगे कि अब आप लोग शुरू करो।
बिल्कुल। तो सबसे पहले आपको बताएंगे कि आज हमारे साथ कौन होने वाले हैं। आज हमारे साथ डॉक्टर शंकर वेणुगोपाल रहने वाले हैं, एंड टॉपिक जिस पर आज का लेक्चर होगा दैट इज डिजायरेबल स्किल्स फॉर द फ्यूचर। यानी कि आप क्या क्या चाहते हैं फ्यूचर के लिए।
वो इतना बहुत समझदार लोग हैं, आगे बताइए।
एंड साथ ही साथ एबलर रॉय रहेंगे कल फॉर द टॉपिक बिजनेस मॉडल। कल शाम, सॉरी आज शाम 5
आज शाम को 5 बजे।
एंड राकेश मल्होत्रा सर रहेंगे फॉर द टॉपिक ऑफ एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप कल सुबह 10 से 11 के बीच में। एंड देन शिराज बिनवाला रहेंगे फॉर द सर्च ऑफ क्वांटम ग्रेविटी।
ये बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग होने वाला है,
बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग,
ये सुन के हमें बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग लगा।
क्या बात है। एंड देन उसके अगले दिन 18 तारीख को रंजन सिंह सर रहेंगे rediscovering focus in the sea of distraction।
ये भी बहुत जरूरी है मेरे ख्याल से, आज के
सबके लिए जरूरी है,
यूथ के लिए बहुत ज्यादा ये जरूरी है।
ये सब डिस्ट्रैक्शन ठीक है, तो हमारे लिए तो है ही जरूरी, बट हमारे साथ साथ छोटे छोटे बच्चे सबके लिए इम्पोर्टेंट। एंड देन समर सिंगला रहेंगे समर्स जर्नी एज एन एंटरप्रेन्योर 19 तारीख को सुबह 10 से 11 बजे के बीच में। एंड अभिनय भसीन The impact of AI on human effort।
ये एक दोबारा से एक और चीज ऐसी आ रही है which is very important।
It is important यार, दुनिया बदल रही है। And then of course 20 तारीख को HC वर्मा सर रहेंगे, The Spirit of Taking Challenges। And last में एक interactive एक Q&A session रहेगा आपका by अलीम मैम। So it's gonna be amazing। आपको बड़ा मजा आने वाला है, and काफी information से भरा रहेगा। We can use the word, क्या कहते हैं उसे, इंफोटेनमेंट।
यस। सो एंटरटेनमेंट भी रहेगा, इंफॉर्मेशन भी रहेगी। ये तो बात होगी सेलेस्टा 2020 के इवेंट्स की, सीरीज ऑफ इवेंट्स की, जो लगातार हर दिन होने हैं, जो एक्सपर्ट्स आपके साथ होने वाले हैं। इसके अलावा अब हम थोड़ी सी बात अपनी करेंगे, और सबसे पहले 2020 पे नजर डालेंगे।
बिल्कुल।
2020 लोग जिस तरह से ले रहे हैं, बहुत सारी नेगेटिविटी हम लोगों के अंदर आई, इसमें कोई डाउट नहीं है। हालांकि उसको दूर करने के लिए अलग अलग काम भी हमने किए, बट 2020 में हमें लगता है कि एक अगर एक्सपीरियंस के तौर पे देखें, तो ये वो एक्सपीरियंस है जिंदगी का जो हमारे पिताजी ने या उनके पिताजी ने नहीं लिया है।
ना कभी सोचा होगा ऐसा। इस साल के लिए हमारे बहुत सारे प्लान्स थे कि भाई ये करेंगे, वो करेंगे, बाइक ली है, पहाड़ों पे जाएंगे एकदम। एंड क्या कहते हैं उसे, वो एक वर्ड यूज करते हैं इंस्टाग्राम पे, सब
ट्रिप पे जाएंगे।
नहीं वैंडरस। वैंडरस वाला एक टैग लगा देंगे अपने इंस्टाग्राम पे, ट्रैवलर का टैग लगा देंगे। सारे चौपट हो गए। इस साल मुझे 10 किलो लूज करना था, अब टारगेट अचीव करने के लिए बस 20 किलो और
20 किलो और करना है।
20
सो अपने
किलो
शो
और
से हम लोग शुरू करते हैं। हम दोनों को पटना में जानते हैं, पटना के दो कड़क छोरों के नाम से, अनूप और सरस। और हम सिर्फ पटना में नहीं है, हमें आरा और पता नहीं कहाँ कहाँ से लोग कॉल करते हैं, मैसेजेस करते हैं। सो यस, हम पटना के बाहर भी थोड़ा बहुत सुने जाते हैं। सो हमारा जो शो है उसका नाम है BR935। BR तो आप जानते होंगे, रजिस्ट्रेशन नंबर यहीं से शुरू होते हैं यहाँ बिहार में। सो BR935 हमारी फ्रीक्वेंसी है। सो BR935 हमारा शो है। हमारे शो पे जो चीजें जाती हैं उनमें जो सबसे ज्यादा प्रोमिनेंट है,
जो हमारी यूएसपी बेसिकली,
यूएसपी कह सकते हैं। हाँ, नहीं, मुद्दों को उठाना, उन पे बात करना भी एक कह सकते हैं। हाँ, जो यूएसपी है वो है बैंड बजाना। और हम डैम श्योर है कि आप लोगों में से कुछ लोगों ने ये जरूर सुना होगा। हम लोग प्रैंक कॉल करते हैं, आप हमें नंबर देते हैं किसी का और हम उसे कॉल करते हैं और उसकी बैंड बजाते हैं। टॉपिक आप ही बताते हैं बेशक कि हाँ भाई क्या चल रहा है उनकी जिंदगी में, क्या नया हुआ है इस टाइप से। और ये चीजें कई बार इवेंट्स में भी हम लोगों ने की है, जब हम लोगों ने लाइव बैंड बजाई है। लाइक पब्लिक से कोई आया है और पब्लिक से आकर जो है उन्होंने हमें नंबर दिया है कि हाँ यहीं पर आप जो है बैंड बजाइए।
करेक्ट।
कुछ करना चाह रहे हैं अनूप जी?
हाँ, मैं देख रहा था इसमें प्राइवेट चैट वाला ऑप्शन कुछ है कि
नहीं छोड़िए ना, प्राइवेट चैट बाद में कर लीजिएगा, पहले ये कर
जा नहीं रहा।
नहीं नहीं, इसको नीचे करो।
ओके, नो प्रॉब्लम। नो 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 नो।
ना ना ना, ओके, यहाँ से तो नहीं जाएगा।
ओके, हमारी स्क्रीन में कुछ इश्यू है बट आई गेस लोग हमें अच्छे से देख सकते हैं, राइट?
बस एक सेकेंड। ऑलराइट, सो वी आर बैक।
सॉरी फॉर द पर्टिकुलर टेक्निकल
इशू। ओके, सो 2020 में हमें ऐसा लग रहा है कि ये वर्चुअल इवेंट हो रहा है, इसमें आप लोगों को जरूरत है स्क्रीन रिकॉर्ड करने की, ताकि जब आने वाली जो आपके घर में जो बच्चे होंगे, आप अपने बच्चे अपने पोतों को दिखा पाएंगे कि हाँ 2020 में एक ऐसा भी पैंडेमिक आया जिस वक्त में हम लोग लॉकडाउन में घर के अंदर रहे 3 से 4 महीने। उसके अलावा जब उसके बाद लोगों को लगा कि नहीं अब तो दुनिया यहीं पर, लाइक कहते नहीं, द एंड सा लग रहा है, लेकिन लोगों ने शादियां करनी शुरू कर दी।
बैक टू बैक शादी हो रही है। आई रिमेम्बर मेरे एक दोस्त आया था पटना बैक इन February आई गेस। तो उससे जस्ट बात हुई थी सर कि ना भाई अभी शादी नहीं करेंगे भाई, ये वो। लॉकडाउन शुरू हुआ,
उसने शादी कर
अनलॉक हल्का सा शुरू हुआ, शादियों का मौसम आया। सबसे पहले भाई ने शादी की इनविटेशन भी नहीं भेजा। कहते हैं अब भाई शादी कर रहे हैं, देख ले लॉकडाउन में 50 लोग अलाउड है तो देख लेना। शादी कर रहा है मतलब आई थॉट एंगेजमेंट कर रहा है, ऑनेस्टली स्पीकिंग, बड़ी से शादी कर रहा है।
सो कुल मिला के 2020 में बहुत सारी शादियां हो रही हैं। स्क्रीन रिकॉर्ड मैंने उन शादियों की करने की नहीं कही थी, कहीं कुछ नजर आ रहा है। स्क्रीन रिकॉर्ड आप इस पर्टिकुलर इवेंट की कर सकते हैं, स्ट्रीम की कर सकते हैं, ताकि आप आने वाले जमाने में अपने बच्चों को ये बताएं कि हाँ 2020 में इतने सारे चैलेंजेस हमारे सामने थे, उसके बावजूद हमने इस टाइप की चीजें। हालांकि मुझे एक चीज का डाउट है कि आज से 20 साल के बाद, क्योंकि डिजिटली हम लोग जहां पहुंच गए हैं, आज से 20 साल के बाद हम लोग कहीं और बहुत आगे होने वाले हैं।
भाई 20 साल 2 साल में ऐसे वो VR क्लासेस लगा के इवेंट्स करेंगे।
अब उस वक्त में अगर बच्चों को हम स्क्रीनशॉट दिखाएंगे तो फिर बच्चे कहेंगे कि यार क्या दिखा रहे हो आप, हम कहाँ पहुंच गए, आप कहाँ हो। बट हाँ, कहने के लिए 2020 अगर हम लोग अपनी बात करें, 8 साल 6 साल 8 साल आराम से हो गए, 10 साल हो गए कॉलेज से निकले हुए। सो ये क्या हो रहा है अनूप सर?
ये मैसेज आया,
कोई बात नहीं। ओके, सो 8 साल 10 साल हम लोगों को हो गए हैं। और हमें अच्छा बैकग्राउंड की यहाँ पर बात करें, मैं एरोनॉटिकल इंजीनियरिंग कर रहा था। DGCA के प्रॉपर मैंने पेपर एयरक्राफ्ट मेंटेनेंस के भी क्लियर किए। भाई अब की बात करें तो कॉमर्स लेके बैंकिंग में जाने का इरादा बनाया हुआ था।
प्रिपेयर कर लेता, ये पूरा एग्जाम सब वगैरह सब दे दिए थे।
हाँ।
मेरा दिल तब टूटा था जब मैं एग्जाम देने गया था बैंकिंग का।
हाँ।
कि मैं पहुंचा हूँ और मेरे टीचर भी पहुंचे।
बस इसने
ये तो गलत हो गया।
ये
और मैच हम वहीं हारे, आपको बता रहे एग्जाम देते वक्त मैच नहीं हारे।
ओके,
मैच वहीं हारे।
हम लोग बस यही कहना चाहते हैं कि जिंदगी में बहुत सारी चीजें होती हैं करने को। कई बार हमारी फैमिली भी हमें प्रेशर डालती है, कई बार हमारी प्रेशराइज करती है कि नहीं ये कर लो वो कर लो। बट अल्टीमेटली आपकी मेहनत, आपकी लगन, आपकी किस्मत आपको वही देगी जो आप चाहते हैं।
राइट।
ओके,
तो फिलहाल हमारे लिए इतना है। ऑफ कोर्स इंस्टाग्राम फेसबुक पर आप जो भी पोस्ट कर रहे हैं हमें टैग जरूर कीजिएगा। इफ यू हैव द स्क्रीनशॉट्स ऑफ दिस पर्टिकुलर इवेंट एंड स्क्रीन रिकॉर्डिंग एनीथिंग एट ऑल, कड़क.चरस यूजर नेम है भाई का, सिर्फ
यूजर नेम है। हाँ, ध्यान से।
मेरा RJ अनूप रेड FM, फेसबुक पर RJ अनूप रेड FM, RJ सरस रेड FM। सो डू लाइक, फॉलो, कमेंट, टैग। ऐसे ही फॉलो कर लिया और फिर तुरंत अनफॉलो कर दिया।
नहीं, आपको जो करना है आप करिए। हम भी प्रेशराइज नहीं करेंगे आपको पेरेंट्स की तरह। खैर, यहाँ पर हम ये कहना चाहते हैं कि सेलेस्टा 2020 वर्चुअल इवेंट हो रहा है और बहुत ही गजब होने वाला है, बहुत ही शानदार होने वाला है। सो कोशिश करिएगा एक भी सेकंड मिस ना करने की। ये 20 तारीख तक मेरे ख्याल से अगर आप सारे जितने भी सेशंस होने वाले सारे अगर एक बार को अटेंड करते हैं तो आपकी लाइफ में ना आपको एक बहुत ही बड़ा चेंज नजर आएगा।
अब सिंस हमारे पास लिंक है तो
हाँ,
हम भी चुपचाप से अटेंड करने वाले हैं,
चुपचाप
discreetly।
से, हाँ,
नाम
चुपचाप
अलग
से।
रख लेंगे बस।
हाँ जी,
काफी है।
एकदम। सो पटना के तो गड़क शोरे फ्रॉम सुपर हिट्स 93.5 रेड एफएम, आप सभी का एक बार फिर से बहुत बहुत स्वागत सेलेस्टा 2020 में। और हम ऑल द बेस्ट बोलने वाले हैं जितने भी हमारे दर्शक हैं, मतलब देखने वाले हैं, जो हमारे गेस्ट हैं, उनका हम फिर से स्वागत करना चाहते हैं। अब मेरे ख्याल से शुरू करने का ये टाइम है, शुरू किया
विजय को
जाए।
हैंडओवर
विजया को हैंडओवर हम कर रहे हैं।
Yeah.
सो विजया, आगे की कमान आप संभालिए, बाकी हम थ्रू आउट आपके साथ रहेंगे।
93.5 रेड एफएम।
बजाते रहो एंड थैंक यू सो मच।
थैंक यू सो मच।
Good morning and a warm welcome to one and all present here. This is Vijaya, your host and host for today's guest lecture session. This is guest lecture 1 of the annual Techno Management Fest of IIT Patna, Celesta. Right now, we are live on YouTube and Facebook, and here we'll be inviting with us on stage our today's guest very soon. Before that, let me inform you that our two events are live. Those are Questian, the general quizzing event, and Solid Design, the ultimate designing challenge for civil engineers. For more info, you can visit www.celesta.tech. So, call out your friends and get glued to the screen because the ride is going to get you excited. So, let me first introduce you to the esteemed personality who will be blessing us with his presence today. He is the Vice President of Mahindra and Mahindra, currently leading the innovation for the automotive and farm services business. A personality very passionate about developing sustainable urban mobility solutions. His current interests span across electric vehicles, connected vehicles, autonomous vehicles, and precision farming. He holds 10 international patents and numerous new product innovation awards. An avid reader interested in physics, philosophy, and psychology. He is also the Dean of the Mahindra Technical Academy and teaches technology innovation management at premier engineering and management institutes in India and abroad. He was recognized as one of the 50 innovative leaders at the World Innovation Congress 2020 and is also a TEDx speaker. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further delays, I would like to call upon the stage none other than Mr. Shankar Venugopal.
Hi, a very good morning. Very good morning. I hope you can all hear me clear. So I'm really excited about spending this next 1 hour with you all today.
Yes, sir, you're live on the channel.
Okay, great. So I was just waiting for some cue from you. No harm. Sure. So what I would like to do, Vijaya, is to share my screen when we talk about the desirable skills for the future. So if you can just enable the features so that I can share my screen, we can get started right away.
So you're already on the screen. People can see you now.
Now I want to share a PPT file. So I need to share my screen. Yeah.
Okay, sir. So I'll talk to my technical team.
Yeah, please do that. Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Hi, sir.
Yes.
So, just below your screen on which the everything is being displayed, there's an option to start your mic. There is an option to start your video, and the third one allows you to share your screen. So you just click on it and share your screen.
I'm just doing that. Confirm to me if you can see it. Okay.
Yes, sir. Your screen is visible. Arvind, put that screen and put me and Vijay back. Yes, sir. It's visible now.
Okay. Great. Great. So friends, very good morning. And what I thought we could discuss about today is what are those skills which should be very important for us going into the future, which should help us to really make a big impact when we pass out of the college and get into the industry, there are certain skills which could really help us in a very big way to make a big impact right at the beginning of our career itself. So I thought I would share some of these thoughts and insights with you today. And I have titled this as Desirable Skills for the Future. And what I'm primarily going to talk about is design thinking, exponential thinking, sustainable thinking, innovative thinking, and rational thinking. All these five are cognitive skills which will be over and above your engineering domain knowledge that will actually help you to make a real big impact when you get into the industry. So let's talk about why there is a need for certain new cognitive skills and what is the need for us to talk about it today. Okay, so what you see here is a nice beach. We have a beach here in Chennai where I'm based at the Mahindra Research Valley. And when you look at a picture like this is a Havelock Beach in Andaman. When you look at a beach like this, it looks very calm, quiet, very serene, and it always brings you memories of a vacation with friends or family, a very nice, happy time that you'd have spent on a beach. So imagine yourself to be on a beach like this, and then what happens? There's a real big wave that's coming towards you, and you wonder, what is it that I should do? Because the wave is big, it's coming pretty fast, and you wonder, what should I do at this situation like this? So when I'm talking about the industry, there are a variety of disruptions that are happening in the industry, whether it's automotive or banking or healthcare. There are real big disruptions. Some of them are technology disruptions, some of them are business model disruptions that are really coming like these big waves. And you are there, right there, wondering what to do. And when I talk about desirable skills, all I'm telling is these skills would actually help you to convert this experience from something very scary and something very unpredictable to something very predictable where you can actually enjoy, make this a very, very pleasant experience by learning to surf on this wave and make this a great experience rather than worry about it. So, we are talking about certain cognitive skills that will actually help us to ride this future wave in spite of all the disruptions being caused by new technologies and new business models. So, that's the best way you can prepare yourself for a career in technology. That's the reason why I picked this topic for discussion today. You may wonder, the last 6 months, I'm sure you're all been cut off from your classrooms, from your friends. So it's been a very tough last 6 months for us all. We have also been working from home these months. So you may wonder, during a crisis time like this, when you're really cut off from resources, what is it that you can use this time for? How can you really innovate or learn something new? Here I want to share some interesting thoughts around crisis times like this in the past, how great breakthrough things have happened. So if you go back, Newton, the person with the long curly hair that you see here on my chart, he had a break from his university because of health crisis, and then he was sent home, and then he was cut off from his library and lab and whatnot. And it was during this time that he sat under a tree, saw this apple falling, and wondered what could be the force that makes this apple fall, and also related this to the force that holds the planets together and make them move around the sun, and came up with the theory of gravity. And he didn't stop there. He went on to develop the whole physics of optics, and he also developed the most powerful tool, calculus, all during a crisis time like this when he was away from college. And also, if you look at crisis times following world wars, for example, post Second World War, you have see when things were very tough, and jobs weren't so easy, people came up with amazing inventions, whether it's a common ballpoint pen or the ATM machine or the Nescafe, or even more advanced things like the V2 rockets, which we use for satellite launches today. All this happened in a post Second World War crisis kind of time when money was scarce, jobs were not there, and people were really worried. And more recently, if you look at the emergence of powerful business model innovations and the power of platforms, the Uber, Airbnb, Alibaba, all of these picked up their momentum during the financial crisis when people were looking at how can I make more money with available resources, whether it's an extra room in the house or a vehicle that you can spare, can I use that to make money? So, friends, in a just crisis times have always given birth to new ideas and inventions, new discoveries, and also new business models. So that way, the time now is the best time for us to start really innovating and thinking of new ideas to pursue for the post-COVID world. My big boss at Mahindra, Mr. Anand Mahindra, gave an interview to Economic Times, and he said, "How can we use this lockdown time to actually reboot, reinvent, and reignite? Can we use this time to really get back to our big ideas, start pursuing those ideas, and also look at post-COVID world and try to visualize what are those problems that we need to solve the post-COVID world, and how can we start thinking about those ideas right away?" So this is what made me think to say, how can I reinvent? What can I learn? And how can I prepare myself going for the future? And this is what we are going to talk about today. So let me just give you a flavor for what are the big disruptive tsunami waves happening in the industry so that you will know what is that sense of urgency, why should we learn these new skills to meet the needs of the industry. So here are a few disruptive technologies that I want to share with you. I'm sure some of you would be quite familiar with these technologies. What I'm going to talk about is a convergence of many of these technologies in the products when you enter the industry. These are very familiar technologies, but very powerful, disruptive, and they're all growing exponentially in their performance, whether it's mobile internet or cloud or IoT or AI, energy storage, renewables, advanced robotics, a whole bunch of technologies which are really disrupting the entire industry right now. Of course, right at the bottom of this pyramid, in terms of hierarchical needs of the customers whom we serve, would be the internet. It's most of this are enabled by connectivity, and this is what makes these technologies, products, and services very smart and delivers maximum value to the customer. So you have the internet connectivity right at the base of this new Maslow's pyramid of hierarchy for the customers whom we serve. If you look at the way technology has evolved, it's amazing, friends. You'll be really surprised at the pace at which technology has evolved. What was a supercomputer in 1975 to 80? It would have costed $5 million. The same computing power you have in your smartphone in your pocket. Just imagine the power of a supercomputer of 1975 is there, accessible and affordable to you, and it's there right on your palm. Just imagine how much you can do with this kind of computing power which is at your hands. Same way, if you look at developments in Human Genome Project, when it was done, the Genome Project, it was completed in 2003 at a huge cost of $2.7 billion after 13 years of work. But today, if you want to do that, it costs $100, and in 1 hour, you can get the genome sequenced. That's the power of computing across multiple domains, how it has made technology so affordable and accessible. So here, primarily, I want to touch upon 4 set of technologies. I won't go deep into them because that's not my focus. I want to focus more on the skills that will help you to address and work on these technologies. But the first bunch is all about technologies that we will use to digitize. The second is smart and connected technologies. The third is clean energy and also advanced materials and manufacturing. All I want to say is all these technologies are exponentially growing in their performance, and the cost of this technology is also falling exponentially, so that it's very easy for you to use these technologies in your products and services. Now that you have all these powerful technologies, how do you build innovative products and grow your business? If you want to become a tech entrepreneur, what is it that you need to have to make sure that you use the technology in the right way and translate that to value for the customer and money for your business? That's where design thinking comes as the first and foremost skill that you would need. Design thinking is all about your ability to empathize with your customer, the end user, and make sure that you understand their constraints when you are designing a product. So if you look at the picture on the left of my chart, you see something very colorful and jazzy looking, something like a entertainment park theme. And this is actually a hospital, and this is a MRI machine where you are looking at the whole machine is being decorated in a way that it is child friendly, because when you go through a MRI scan, you have to stay there rigid for almost half an hour, and for a young patient it's a very scary experience. So the inventor of the MRI machine thought, how can I make it a child friendly experience? And then he said, why not make it a theme, so that this half an hour it will be very entertaining for the child. So this is, for example, is a Finding Nemo kind of a theme where you have the underwater, and then you have the right visuals and the music, and so the entire half an hour goes off very fast, and it's very engaging, so that the child doesn't feel that he or she is in a hospital environment going through MRI scan and stuff. So there are plenty of examples like this across design thinking, where even when you are working in a high-end technology, you keep the customer in mind and you try to see how can I make it a pleasant experience for the customer. What this means is you are basically trying to bring the heart and the brain together. See, one is all about emotional thinking, it's a lot of right brain thinking. Other is very logical and analytical, the left brain thinking. So, design thinking basically brings the left and the right together and gives you a framework where you can use your creativity and innovation to deliver products that will really appeal to the customers, wow the customers, and make them just love the product that you're giving them. So it's not a rocket science. All of us can learn and do this. And as engineers, it is very important for us, especially in the automotive space. We spend a lot of time to understand the needs of the engineers, of the customers, and engineer products that really caters to the need of our customers. And if you look at how we go about it, we start with empathize with the customers, define the right problems, ideate. It's a very collective, cross-functional team that gets into ideation and idea generation, and then build the prototypes and finally test them. That's how we build the products in such a way that we use technology, but it's all built on customer insights, understanding what they value. So in this framework, we try to bring the desirability of the customer, the technical feasibility, and also the economic viability together, so that your idea is at the intersection of these three important parameters: desirability, feasibility, and viability. So every engineer should expose themselves to the basic framework of design thinking and make sure that you solve problems in the design thinking way. Then every single idea that you work on would really make a big impact on the end customers. So this is very easy to pick up and practice. I would encourage you to do that even when you are at IIT. All your projects, you can definitely employ the design thinking approach, so that by the time you come to the industry, you are very comfortable bringing your engineering knowledge and the design thinking approach together. If you look at great products, you basically see that the approach behind it has been a design thinking based approach. And this is a time tested approach if you are looking at creating innovative products and solutions. The next important cognitive skill that I want to introduce to you is exponential thinking. So design thinking is all about understanding the customer. Now let's look at what is exponential thinking. Here is where I want to tell you a story. This goes back to a king in Kerala who was a great fan of playing chess. And then once to his court, a wise old man comes and says, shall we play a game of chess? The king says, yes, okay, fine. What is the reward? And then reward turns out to be rice. And in this case, grains of rice in a particular way, it has to be given for the winner. And it goes like this: just one single grain of rice for the first square of the chessboard, and then two for the second, 4, 8, 16, 32, 64, 128, 256, 512, 2048, and so on. Okay, so if you do a quick math, you may realize that it's not too large a number because there are only 64 squares on the chessboard. So that's what the king also thought and said agreed for the match. They played, and of course the wise old man won the match and said, okay, get me my reward. And when the king actually did the math and tried to give him what he wanted, it sounds like this is an unimaginably large number. Although it starts as small numbers 248, but when you go through it 64 times, it's an unimaginably large number, 2 power 64 minus 1, so many metric tons, and that's really lots and lots of rice. This is something. If I do this calculation for wheat, it's almost 1,645 times the global production of wheat. In the case of rice, it's about 2,000 times the global production of rice. So even today, it is difficult to reward the amount of the rice that the winner had asked for. So the legend goes that there is this particular temple in Kerala. Whenever you go there, they always serve you this kheer made out of rice because the king still owes that rice to that wise old man who visited the court. So they have been doing this for so many decades. So this story is relevant here because when you think of exponential, we have been so long in an incremental world that we always think if you keep doubling 2, 4, 8, 16, it may not really lead to a big number. But the exponential nature is it starts in a small way, picks up momentum very, very fast, and really becomes real big numbers. So, why is this relevant for the technologies that we'll be talking today? Primarily because of the Moore's law. Moore did a very, very similar prediction of doubling and said the computing power actually will double every 18 months. And also the cost of computing will become half every 18 months. And friends, what I show here is the data for about 30 years from 1970 to 2000 when the Moore's law has been very religiously followed, doubling every 18 months. Imagine the y-axis, of course, is a logarithmic scale. That's why I'm able to show you this curve in one chart. And we are all the beneficiaries of this kind of exponential growth in the computing technology. That's how we are able to afford such devices which have very high power of computing. And this is just one exponential law with respect to computing. There are similar exponential growth that we have seen in data storage and also in communication of data. All these technologies have been growing exponentially. So you can compute, then you can store, and you can also share with others. All these technologies have been growing in an exponential manner. So when technology is growing exponentially, we also need to think exponentially. It's not enough if we think 2x or 3x. We need to think 10x and 100x to make sure that we are able to leverage this technology and deliver value to the customer. So that's what I mean by exponential thinking. And so many decades of linear incremental thinking has been happening around us. Now we need to consciously break free and start thinking exponentially. So this is one of the most important cognitive skill that you can develop when you come to the industry. This is going to set you apart and give you a special position as out of the box thinker if you can leverage all these technologies and think of exponential benefits rather than incremental benefits. I'll just picked up an example of a product built on multiple such exponential technologies. So Ollie is a small 8-seater vehicle, and this has been on the roads for close to 5 years now. We have been collecting a lot of data to understand the convergence of technologies and further improve its performance. So this particular vehicle is an electric vehicle, and this is autonomous, this is connected, and what you see there is entirely 3D printed and made of lightweight materials and composites and whatnot. But the most interesting feature here is what you see on the top of this vehicle. It says Watson and IoT. So although this is an autonomous vehicle, there is no onboard intelligence. The way this works is there are a few basic sensors and cameras. So the information around the immediate environment is captured by these sensors, and the information is relayed to IBM Watson on the cloud. So the computation, the analysis happens on the cloud, and then the vehicle gets instruction to either accelerate or brake or move left or move right. With this kind of architecture, this vehicle can move through dense traffic in the cities. And this is not a future product that we are talking about. This has been built 4 to 5 years back and it's been on the road over the last few years, generating a lot of data. So this is what I mean when I talk about convergence of multiple exponential technologies. It's a real big paradigm shift when you bring these technologies together. So we touched upon design thinking and also exponential thinking. Now let's look at sustainable thinking. This is important. We just cannot afford to lose focus on sustainability. So that's the reason why I brought this after design and exponential. So December 2019 is a photo of Delhi, and this photo was taken during the day, but because of the smog, the visibility was pretty bad. And if you look at April 2020, somebody took a picture in Jalandhar and they could see the Himalayan peaks in the background. Such was the quality of the air. It's so clean that you could even see the Himalayan peaks all the way from Jalandhar. And if you see what has happened in between December and April, in March, maybe by end of March until mid-April, most people stayed at home, they didn't go out. And within this short time, nature was able to heal itself so well, so fast. Friends, do we really need a health crisis like COVID to teach us this basic fact that whatever we do, the new technologies, the business models that we create, we should make sure that it should not have any negative impact on the environment. It's a very basic logic to ensure that everything that we do, every technology, every product that we build has a positive impact on the environment. It's few absolutely sustainable technologies and sustainable business models that we need to work with. So that's the basis of sustainable thinking. Just because we are working on high-tech things, we should not lose focus on sustainability. That's most important, and that can form the basis of your product differentiation itself. Let's look at the last two P's, which is innovative thinking and rational thinking. When it comes to innovative thinking, there is no better way than to learn a couple of tools and really practice for us to get the confidence that we are all innovative. So I thought I'll share a couple of simple innovative thinking tools with you. So let's look at a situation like this. You want to build a product and find some new applications and grow your business. So this is a very simple divergent thinking tool that I want to introduce to you. It's called the noun and the verb. So for example, if you take a pen, the noun is pen and the verb is writing. So if you take a product and go for the conventional application, that's the same noun and the same verb, which is the blue box. Now, if you find a new application for this product, you are basically working in the green box where you're asking, what can I do with a pen other than to write? I can use a pen possibly for pointing to something. I can make some noise with the pen. I can use it as a paperweight. I can do so many things with a pen that I can find new applications for a conventional product. Then if you move across diagonally to the yellow box, which is a different noun but same verb, here we are asking, I want to write, but I don't have a pen. What else can I use? Then you can think of maybe a pencil, crayon, a quill, maybe a piece of chalk, a piece of charcoal. So many things one can think of if you don't have a pen, but you need to write. But the real disruptive innovation happens in the fourth box, the orange one, which looks at different noun and different verb. Here we are talking about I don't have a pen, I don't want to write, but what else can I do to get my job done? In this case, the job to be done is basically communication, getting a message across to you. So maybe I can use a PPT, I can make a video of what I want to do, and then share it with you. So this makes you move away from the current product, the current application, and think of something totally at the next higher plane. So these are the four quadrants typically that product innovators go through to find either incremental ideas or totally disruptive out of the box ideas. But the orange box is where the real opportunity is when you want to come up with an innovative version of a known product. Sure. So this tool is a divergent thinking tool. It helps you to come up with lots and lots of ideas every time you play with this. The next one is adaptive thinking, where is it possible for us to think like somebody else and thereby get better ideas than what we would get if we think like ourselves? So can I think like Steve Jobs? Can I think like Sherlock Holmes? What do we do? So here what we try to do is take the same problem that we are working on. Say I want to solve the problem of traffic jam. Um, I used to live in Bangalore prior to this, and Bangalore was known for traffic jams. Any time of the day, any part of the city, the traffic could be so slow moving that it's very frustrating. So if I take a problem like this, you would ask, what would Sherlock Holmes do? If Sherlock Holmes has to solve this problem, what would he do? How would he go about it? Or what would Steve Jobs do? Or what would Superman do? So knowing Sherlock Holmes, you would know that he would be able to very carefully observe and find certain things which most others would have missed out and use that as the basis for solving the problem. So if Sherlock Holmes is trying to solve the problem of traffic jam in Bangalore, he won't just look at the surface. He'll try to go a little deep and understand what causes this traffic jam. Is it bad driving habits, or is it bad road conditions, or is it poor coordination of the traffic signals? He will go a little deeper and trying to find the root cause. Suppose if Steve Jobs is trying to solve this problem, he would try to use technology to solve the problem, understand what is it that's causing, and how can I use the power of digital technologies, how can I give a great experience for the customer who is the driver on the road, and how can I use technology to deliver that. If Superman is trying to solve, of course, he won't be limited by all these constraints. He's Superman, so he can do anything he wants. So he will try to move away from all the constraints and think of what is the ideal solution. What is the best way to solve this when I'm not limited by any of these constraints? So all this actually helps you to break away from constraints and think in innovative ways. And we call this as adaptive thinking. And I have personally built myself a deck of about 100 plus cards with variety of personalities and characters that I'm familiar with to trigger my thinking. Whenever I run out of ideas, I just randomly pull out a deck. The deck may have a picture of, say, Kung Fu Panda, or it may have a picture of Steve Jobs or Einstein or Edison. Then I try to think how they would solve this particular problem. So you can build your own deck, but this is something very useful because when you run out of ideas, this will give you a very nice trigger and put you in a new direction of thinking. Very simple, and it's fun. There's a lot of fun when you try to use these kind of thinking methods to come up with ideas. There is just one more that I want to introduce, which I would call as reverse thinking. This is a very powerful way to come up with breakthrough ideas. Suppose I ask you to design a very innovative school. When you think of a school, it's always you will think of a school with a teacher, a nice building, exams and students and whatnot. So to think innovatively, what we do is try to reverse each one of this. What if it's not there? So we win school will have no teacher, no building, no exams, no students. So when I try to reverse these assumptions and then think of ideas, I may come up with, can I run my school under the shade of a tree? Can I run a school in a boat? Can I run a school in a bus? Variety of things you start thinking as alternatives for a building because you don't have a building. So if you don't have teachers, you start wondering, can I use the senior students to teach the junior students? Can the students look at videos and online content and learn by themselves? Can a robot be used to teach the children? Like the variety of alternative ideas you start thinking. So the reverse thinking is basically about listing down the assumptions, reversing the assumptions, and doing a reverse brainstorming. And then you take the ideas and put it back in the original system, which is a conventional school with teacher, building, exams, and students. Then when you add all these ideas, it becomes very, very innovative. And that's how you can always come up with breakthrough versions of conventional things when you try to challenge the assumptions that you typically live with. This is a very powerful tool, and it's called reverse thinking tool. The interest of time, I'm going to skip the last one, which is convergent thinking, and directly move to the last skill, which is rational thinking. Very critical, friends. I'll just give you two quick examples, and with this, I'll be able to wrap up. Um, Suppose you have gone for a movie, and then after the first few minutes, you realize that this movie is really very boring. So you have two options. Either you would get up and come out and use the time to do something else, or you may sit through and see the movie till the end. What you do would depend a lot on whether you spent your money and bought the ticket for the movie, or look at an alternative scenario where a friend had bought the ticket and said, I'm unable to go for the movie, so it's for you free. So you can just go ahead and see the movie. Okay. So in one case, you have put your money. The other case, you have not spent money. It's free. Looks like our decision to either get up and go out or to sit through the movie will depend a lot on whether we have invested our money on this or not. So when it's free, you just get up and go away because there's nothing to lose. But sometimes when you have spent the money, somehow you end up sitting all through the end, even though it's a boring movie. This kind of a cognitive bias, we call it as a sunk cost bias. And this story may look very silly. Why should I sit through if it's boring? But believe me, many of us end up doing that because we have already invested our time or our money or our efforts. Even in the case of technology and innovation, if you have spent a lot of effort developing a particular technology, you kind of get stuck to it. You don't want to leave it, even though you know that the other technology is better. So this kind of a cognitive bias is called a sunk cost bias. And we need to make sure that we are aware, if at all we have this bias, and we make sure that we don't let this interfere with our decision making. So I'll just show you one more cognitive bias before we wrap up. This is what I call as a framing effect cognitive bias. Here, the example I want to use is there is an aged relative who is suffering from a serious disease, and she has to go through a surgery. Okay. So now when you go and talk to the surgeon, the first surgeon says the operation is quite risky. 30% of the patients undergoing this operation, they may die. So when you hear this, would you still recommend that this relative goes through the surgery? The other situation where you meet another surgeon, he says, okay, this surgery can actually cure her. The operation is risky, but you know what? 70% of the patients undergoing this surgery survive. So there's nothing to worry. So this kind of a situation where the facts are the same, but the way it has been stated, one is a positive way of stating it, other is a negative way of stating it. But based on this, people may be induced to make a decision one way or the other, and effect bias. So although we are all very knowledgeable, very intelligent to make out whether it's 30 or 70, it's the same fact. But many a times when you have to make a decision, we do get carried away. And this kind of a cognitive bias is called a framing effect bias. So there are a whole ton of such cognitive biases. And this is a work done by Daniel Kahneman, who won the Nobel Prize a couple of years back. And we need to understand all these biases and check whether we have any of those biases and make sure that when we make decisions, these biases do not interfere with our decision making. So this is what I mean by rational thinking. So in this short time, friends, I introduced 5 important cognitive skills for you: design thinking, exponential thinking, sustainable thinking, innovative thinking, and rational thinking. And these are the ones which will actually help you in a big way to leverage all the exponential technologies that have been disrupting the industry. It will turn it around and help you to actually leverage these technologies and come up with innovative solutions and products and really use all that to grow your business. Whether you work for a big industry or whether you become an entrepreneur and work on your own startup idea, either way, these 5 cognitive skills will make you very, very successful. So this is where you will be once you master these skills. You will be no longer at the mercy of that big tsunami wave, but you'll be able to ride that wave and make it a great experience. And this is what I want to wish every one of you. when you pass out from IIT Patna and when you enter the industry, I want you to be bold and confident like this because you have already mastered these 5 skills. And I'll be most happy to be available to you for any discussions following this or any mentoring that you would need, or whenever you have an innovative idea, you could use me as a sounding board. We could bounce the ideas and discussions, and I could also help you to connect with the experts who can help you to further shape your innovative ideas. So with this, I want to stop sharing and take any questions that you may have related to what we discussed today.
Thank you very much, sir. That was really wonderful. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, very clear.
Okay, so now I guess Vijay is having some technical issues, so I'll be taking up with the Q&A sessions.
Sure.
There are a few questions that the students have asked. We'll be first taking the question by Vedant Wag. Maharsh, can you put that question on the screen?
I
He
can
is
see.
asking.
I can read the question. Yeah, no problem. Go ahead.
He's asking, I'll just read it out for the audience.
Yeah.
He's asking, how can a design-based thinking be merged with the profit needs of a firm? Does the design-based thinking reduce profits?
Absolutely. It's a very good question because right at the heart of design thinking is using 3 filters to prioritize the ideas. One is whether the customers will desire the idea that we are developing. Second is, can I make it work? Is it technically feasible? The third important thing is, will it be profitable? Can I make it economically viable? So you are at the intersection of 3 things. The customer would just love your idea, that you can make it work because you have the technology ready, and it's going to make money because it's economically viable. So that's how when you use design thinking and develop a product, your customers would love the product, and you'll also be able to profit in a big way by building a business on top of that product. That's how it's the best, safest way to approach any innovative idea.
It's just to keep the needs of the customer in
Sure.
mind and be creative.
Absolutely. As long as you know what the customer wants and keep that as a central focus, you will never go wrong.
Okay, so now we'll be taking the question by Jenish. Maharsh, can you display the question on the screen? All right, I guess there's some issue. All right, till then we'll take the issue from Akash Balaji. He's
Sure.
asking, how do we reduce the technological gap between the urban rich and the rural poor without compromising on quality and cost effectiveness?
Absolutely. Sure. So we call it as a democratization of technology. That's where the real innovation is, to make technology so affordable that everybody can really access it. So I was talking about exponential technology, where the technology is growing in performance exponentially and also falling in cost exponentially. So the technology is becoming cheap. It's only your ability to leverage that and build a product that the customer would need. That's where your innovation comes in. For example, we talk about driverless car. You would have heard so much about Google's driverless car, and you know that it's something very expensive. Not that you and I can go for a driverless car today. But would you believe that we are building a driverless tractor for farmers in India at the price of just a couple of lakhs? It's a small compact tractor with semi-autonomous features. Can you imagine how you can really make such a high-end technology like autonomous vehicle affordable to a poor farmer in India and help him to actually improve his earnings? So it is perfectly possible. All you have to do is focus on the right problem and use all your creativity and engineering knowledge to make it work. And it is perfectly possible to do that. And we have seen it time and again in many different spaces. So it's just about your passion and your ability to empathize with that farmer out there that will allow you to build the autonomous tractor at such an affordable price for a customer. Very much possible. We have seen this many a times.
I hope, Akash, that answers your question. We'll take just one last question, as we are running short on time. So there's a question by Gaurav Maurya. Is there any way to test design thinking skills of a student before hiring? I guess this is a particular question that a lot of college students in their final years are a bit worried about, that how can they exactly match the criteria that a company needs. So
the best way to do that is to participate in hackathons. So when I'm hiring, if I want to hire the best engineers for Mahindra to work on our electric, autonomous, connected vehicles, all I would do is give a problem, give you 24 hours to build a prototype of your idea and present it. So hackathons is the best way for you to really practice your design thinking, because you have very limited time and you are prioritizing the idea and doing a prototype and iteratively improving it, and then you are able to pitch and convince the people that this is the best one to go for. So if I am a student back at IIT Patna, what I would do is I'll participate in as many hackathons as possible all through 4 years. And that's the best way I'd be able to prepare myself for the industry. Sure.
Okay, sir. Well, I guess that would be the last question. There were a lot of questions and we were not able to take all of them because of time constraints, but we really hope that all our viewers enjoyed it. Sir, I would like to thank you on behalf of the entire team Celesta for coming over here and sharing your insight with the students. It has been a wonderful guest lecture, and I'm sure all the students had something to gain from this. Thank you very much, sir, for coming.
Thanks a lot. Thank you so much. I would really like to be accessible to any of your students if they have some ideas to discuss, some startup idea where they need a mentor. I'd be most happy to support them. So don't hesitate. Feel free to reach out. You have my email, you have my blog. So please stay connected.
Yes, sir. We'll make sure that the students are connected with you if they have any sort of these ideas.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Bye.
much, sir.
See you. Bye.
All right, so that was our first guest lecture wrapped up. I hope you all of you enjoyed it. Sir Shankar Venugopal were very insightful, and I do believe that a lot of you had something to gain from this guest lecture. And this is not the end. Celesta is just starting. This is just the beginning of our guest lecture series. We will be back with you in the evening at 5 p.m. with another powerful guest lecture by Sir Avid Roy. He has been known as the god for entrepreneurship, as he has himself helped about 4,000 of plus startups in getting over and reaching the heights that they have reached right now. So I just hope that you guys will be there with us in the evening for Sir Avid Roy. Till then, for more information, you can move on to www.celesta.tech, and you can have all the events and the guest lectures that are currently going on there on the website. So we guys will just see you in the evening. Till then, take care. Goodbye.